Nicole with greatestworth.com, and I am here for another video. Today we're going to be talking about the 7 best debt payoff tips that Sam and I have gathered during our debt payoff journey a few years ago. It took us 26 months to pay off $100,000. If you want to hear more about that story, if you haven't already, check it out on the blog. It's the post before this one. It's a good story. Check it out. So the highlights of that story include that 26 months to pay off $100,000 in debt, which was mainly student loan debt. In our stride of working crazy hours, we were probably putting $3,000 to $5,000 a month towards that debt. I was working 50-hour weeks as a physical therapist, as was Sam. I was in the hospital setting, and I was lifting lots of sick people. I did all of this while pregnant with our 3rd child, which included vomiting on the way to work, and sometimes vomiting, having to leave a patient's room to go vomit and then go back into the room to finish working with them. So we also, during that time, figured out the trick to sticking to a budget and keeping to a plan, and that's kind of the whole premise of Greatest Worth. So I wanted to give you some of these tips really quickly in a fun video. So first debt payoff tip is to create a vision and a values. So I talk about this all the time. I say it over and over and over. A big picture vision will keep you going when you start to get into the grind of the whole thing. Paying off debt can become a super long and tedious process. So if you can return to that vision of the awesome dream you have of traveling with your family or going on a European vacation or whatever it is, if you can keep returning to that vision, then it will keep you going. It's really worth it. The second tip I have is to take things one day at a time. It can get super overwhelming to think about having to pay off $100,000. That is not a quick process at all. Even putting $5,000 a month towards it still takes a good amount of months. So taking it one day at a time, realizing that this one little sacrifice that you're doing today will move you closer to your ultimate vision, and that it's just a tiny sacrifice. You don't have to think about everything that you have to do in the future in order to get there. That will just totally overwhelm you. So just take it one day at a time. Tip number 3, awareness. I talk about this a lot too, but the truth is that awareness will lead to change. So you have to know what's going on with your budget, with your money. It's time to start tracking your spending. Awareness is really going to help you to understand what's happening, what your big picture is, and where you want to go. So awareness. Tip number 4, living on a budget. So you probably saw that one coming. Some people think, though, that this is paying off debt can be done without living on a budget. And the truth is that if you are not tracking things really solidly, it will take a lot longer, right? Because if you are tracking every penny, then all the extra pennies can go to the debt. And you'll be swimming in Morocco way quicker if you track everything. The next tip number 5, I believe, is to find some extra money. So the more money you have at the end of the month, the more money that you can put towards your debt. So sometimes that might look like picking up another job, a seasonal job. When I was working 50-hour weeks, I also had a side, it was another physical therapy job, but it was at a nursing home that I would also work there on any extra days if I could. And it paid really well. It was a horrible job and I absolutely hated it, but it was what was helping us to get there quicker. You can sell things. One thing we kind of evolved as we were paying off debt was kind of almost becoming minimalists in a way. We really kind of tore tore down things and figured out what we hadn't used. If you haven't used something within 6 months to a year, the chances are that you're probably not going to use them. You could at least take it out of your house and store it for another few months, and then in a few months, if you want to, sell it. But that's another way to get some extra money. eBay works super awesome that way. I actually just sold 2 of our old phones, and it took 2 days to sell 2 phones. Next is to automate your payments. This is just a really easy way to get things off your plate, right? To make things automated, all those debt payments, if you can automate everything and then pick the one debt payment that you want to put extra on, and that's Dave Ramsey's snowball method, and I've linked to that in the show notes if you don't know what I'm talking about. But automate everything else, and then that one bill is all you really have to pay, and every month you can just put everything you've got towards that one bill to pay that one bill off first. It just takes some stress out of the process to automate everything else. Next tip is to meal plan. Now, I've talked about this tons and tons of times. There are multiple free meal plans on my website. I've linked to them in the transcript here, so you can just go right to them. But plan out your meals, man. Go to the grocery store only once a week. It's super important to have a plan so that you have food in place, so you're not running out to eat lunch just because you forgot your lunch or you didn't have time to pack a lunch. Make leftovers the night before so that you always have a lunch to take. I also have a make ahead lunch meal plan and I show you how our family makes all of our kids' lunches the Sunday before in 30 minutes. It's literally life-changing, and you will love me forever if you check it out. And the last one that I feel like is really important, and hopefully you can get this in your head, is to stop the comparisons. It's super important to make sure that you kind of believe in yourself and you know that this way is the right way for you and your family. Like, if this is your goal to pay off debt, I promise you people are going to think you're crazy. But I also promise you that it's totally, totally worth it. And I even say in here, like, if you have to unfriend some people on Instagram because all you do is find yourself drooling over your friend's new kitchen or her awesome clothes or whatever it is that you find yourself drooling over, just take that pressure out of your life so that you're not worrying about looking the right way or doing the right things, and that you're just focused on your ultimate goal of paying off debt for that trip to Morocco. So I'm also including a little link in here to get our 55 best budgeting tips. They're tips, but they're just like super actionable things you can do to get your budget cut down. Lots of awesome things in there about groceries, lots of cool things in there. So get your hands on that, check it out. And that's about it. If you want to follow me on Pinterest, I'll put the link in there too. There's lots of awesome content on there. But I will see you next week. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.